Yo, everybody, what is good? It's a bitter cold Tuesday night. But you know what that means? It's time for Flyers Talk A to D. And tonight we are talking about Four Nations Championship being set. Team USA, Canada. We got a repeat. We're going to lot to cover on that one. We're also going to talk Flyers second half. Get it back underway on Saturday, 1 o'clock against the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to kind of pregame that a little bit. We're going to discuss what the expectations are for the Flyers, or what should they be moving forward for this hockey team. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, Facebook and X. Hit that retweet, hit that share. Let's get us out and let's get to everybody who wants to talk some pucks. So let's get at it.
This is Flyers Talk A2D, and we are powered by the doc. That is Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, with 2 locations in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Check out our doc, make them yours. Visit them at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. As you notice, Matt Tsudi is off this week, getting well, feel better, brother. But we are hitting the ice with Brian Daly and Brad Ryer on the top line, centered by yours truly, Rob Povia. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe for notifications to all your favorite shows here on A2D Radio. And as Brian broke down, we'll discuss the Flyers' second half expectations later on in the show. And we have our Four Nations Championship breakdown. Did we expect anything other than USA versus Canada? Well, we're getting round 2. But first, we want your opinion on our face-off poll, which is Team Canada will respond and upset Team USA for the Four Nations trophy. Agree or disagree? We'll be reading your comments all throughout tonight's podcast. But first, I want to turn it over to my line mates. Brad, why don't you start us off this evening? Will Team Canada get their redemption?
Well, you know what? I did pick them to win this. So I'm not going to flip-flop. I still have a feeling that they're going to score enough goals and they're going to win this game. And unfortunately, win the Four Nations. They're just, they had a very bad third period against Finland, but they kind of took their foot off the pedal, so to speak. But they really looked very sharp in that game. The United States, what I'm worried about is how healthy are the Kachuk brothers. They lose McAvoy, which really sucks. And I don't know how healthy this team is. I would certainly expect Hellebuck to be back in the goal. I mean, nothing against Ottinger, but he's not Hellebuck. And Ottinger, I hate to say this, but every time I watch him, he seems to give up, at least 1 or 2 soft goals every game I've ever seen him play. It just seems like that. Maybe I don't see enough of him, but it just seemed like he kind of took the momentum away from the United States on Monday night. Didn't play very well. I thought the United States had a zillion opportunities and couldn't finish. The Kachuk brothers are so important to this team, and without both of them, if they don't have McAvoy, I don't see how this team's gonna beat Canada, especially when Canada's getting McCarr back. I have heard some rumors that Quinn Hughes is being called back to the team, but I don't understand the rules and how he can be actually eligible to play. That's the only thing. I mean, are they putting Charlie McAvoy on some kind of a list so that he can be eligible to play? I mean, I'm just not sure how that works. But
so basically, the way it's breaking down is if Team USA winds up having another injured player, Quinn Hughes can take that roster spot. So as of right now, I'm with you. I'm not exactly sure how it's breaking down, but from what I've been hearing, if another player goes down for Team USA, then Quinn Hughes can take a roster spot.
Does it have to be a defenseman or a forward?
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter.
I didn't hear any specification on that.
So if let's say one of the forwards If one of the Kachuks can't play, they can bring up Point Hughes. Is that basically what you're saying?
Basically, I'm assuming though it has to be defensive because Matt Kachuk already said he's playing, so he'll be in the lineup, and I'm sure Brady's not missing it either.
Yeah,
I
from
wouldn't
reports.
expect to. Brady seems to have the Superman outfit on, and he just continues to show the whole world why I wish he was on my team, and I'm sure everybody wishes they had him on their team. He's just and boy, did he ever step up in that fight on Saturday night. He is just he does everything. I mean, he's just the kind of player that I would love to have on my team. Anytime I would, if I was starting a team, he'd be one of the players because he does everything. He can goon it up with the best of them. Okay, he can filthy it up with the best of them, and he can also put the puck in the net with the best of them, and he can set up plays. And he's just as they used to call, what do they used to call Pat Verbeek? The ball of hate, the mean ball of hate or something.
Yeah, the little ball of hate.
The little ball of hate. Yeah, I think Kachuk both Kachuks actually, but especially Brady. I think he definitely reminds me of that kind of a player. He really is he is like the second coming of Pat Verbeek. He really is. They have the same game. They're just such attitudes, and they score. And you can see how he gets under everybody's skin, and so does Matthew. It's unbelievable. They're so good. If they play, I think the U.S. wins, but I don't know if they're going to be able to play, and I don't know how healthy they're going to be. They may give it a shot, but they may not be 100%. So there's that too. We'll see.
Oh yeah, I mean we will see, and I mean from reports they're saying that Austin Matthews, who also sat out in USA's third game against Team Sweden, that he'll be there Thursday night in that championship. You gotta understand that since this is happening during the season, all precautions are going to be taken. Now, Charlie McAvoy, he's going to be out. He was, last I saw, he was in a hospital bed. So yeah, I mean that's a concern for his hockey team as well. But
that is a big loss. I mean, but Canada lost Theodore, so you have to figure, okay, they both lost their two best defensive defensemen to both teams. So, I mean, it's strange. I don't know exactly how they get this going. And the other question, like, does Kreider play? Can Kreider play? And if he were to play when both Kachuks are in there, who would he replace? So I'd like to see him in there. I mean, there are certain things he does. He's not the greatest player in the world anymore. Okay, but there are certain things he does that definitely help the team. He's willing to go in front of the net, take the punishment, screen the goalie, annoy the defenseman, and always just be a general pest on the ice. And he can score a lot of goals, and he can strike any time. Really like to see him in there. What do you guys think about that?
Well, he could. I mean, he did fill in for Matthew against Team Sweden, and you could say almost Team USA was taking their foot off the gas because they didn't even dress a seventh defenseman. They rolled with a squad of 17. They were a forward down, but Kreider did see ice time. So you would assume that if one of those three forwards can't go, Chris Kreider would be the first name called, right, Brian?
No, absolutely. I mean, you got to think about the experience that he has in this league in big games like, Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'm sure he's been on Olympic teams or playing in the IHF World Championships and the World Cup of Hockey. And, he's been in these situations. He's been around a long time. He's a good leader. He's a guy that you want on the ice in a situation like this. So if there's definitely an opportunity for him to hit the ice, I think you have to take it. I mean, he didn't look bad against Sweden. In fact, I think he had a goal that night too.
No, he did. He scored the goal at 35 seconds.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, this is a guy who, didn't play the first two games of the tournament and then comes in game 3 of the round robin and, makes an impact. So to me, you got to figure out a way to put him in there.
He's also very dangerous shorthanded because he still has great speed and, he always goes to the net and that's one of the strengths he has to play. So if you get him away from Mika Zibanejad, you can actually see that he's a pretty good player. Mika's been kind of dragging him down this year, I think.
Right on, right on. Well, let's finish off our poll. Like in terms of does McAvoy's absence Thursday, does the forward lineup being in a bit of question marks coming in, does Team Canada learn from their mistakes and overcome, Brian?
I think they do. They definitely have the experience on their side as far as some of these guys on the roster. We have the McDavid, we have Crosby, we have Nathan McKinnon like as their top three. But this is definitely a team that they know how to make adjustments. This coaching staff knows how to make adjustments. I think they came out. I don't think they expected Team USA to come out the way that they did on what was it, Saturday night, and just not even necessarily just the first 9 seconds of the game, but Team USA threw their weight around on Saturday night, and I think it took a toll on Team Canada, and I don't think we're going to see that same thing. I think Team Canada is going to come out and they're going to make the adjustments on how physical Team USA has been. They're going to make the changes and figure out how to utilize their speed. They came out and they answered very handily the other night against, I think it was Team Finland. So, I expect Team USA to not have such a impact on against Team Canada as they did. I just think Canada underestimated the US, and I think we're going to see a very different game on Thursday night. And you know what? I'm all for it. Let's go. I'm always for USA Canada for a championship or a medal or whatever. Let's go. This is it right now. Let's go.
It's the way it's got to be, right? The two powerhouses going on mano a mano. But, I kind of sit right between you guys because I do agree with you, Brian. It is going to be a different game, and Canada will match the physicality. But here was a key thing. Because USA represented their first 2 games in a short tournament like this, they got those 6 points early where they could take their foot off the gas, as me and Brad were talking about earlier, against Team Sweden, and gave Hellebuck a breather with Ottinger. Now you get a fresh Hellebuck back in net, whereas Team Canada has been running the gauntlet just to be here. Obviously, it was a quandary on who would have represented, especially with Sweden getting that victory over the USA, but Canada took care of business and secured their spot. But at what cost? We talked about before this tournament started, their weakness was going to be between the pipes. I think that's ultimately what's going to stand strong for Team USA as they win a narrow victory and win the first ever Four Nations Face-Off trophy.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Bennington fan. He's been pretty good between the pipes. He hasn't been spectacular. He hasn't been like a Connor Hellebuck by any stretch, but he's been good enough to figure out ways to keep teams like Finland and Sweden off the board. Sweden was not a team to sleep on. Finland, unfortunately, was hurting before the tournament even started, and that played a factor for Finland on why they were just absolutely putrid, pretty much including the game against Team USA. Team USA, I don't think they put their foot on the gas for that game. I think they just went out and went through the motions on that one. But these are the two powerhouses, and we know why they're the two powerhouses because all the big stars are either from the US or from Canada. But I kind of expected Sweden to be right there with them. But like I said, with Finland, they just had the unfortunate issues with injuries, early on before the tournament even started, and not having a guy like Risto in that lineup is definitely hurt him.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, boys, let's go and see what the fam's saying in regard to this highly anticipated matchup come Thursday night. Benny's Nation going Canada has had a terrible 3-period. Yeah. No, that is absolutely the truth.
Yeah, he went to go on to say throughout the tournament too.
Yeah, exactly. But you're going to see that because they're older team, running, a little bit out of gas, plus, hey, the physicality was brought in Saturday night. That's what I'm curious to see, though. Mm-hmm. It will be a different type of game, but, what do you boys think? Do you think we'll see a more physical play for that trophy now that, the title's on the lines?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's gonna
I
be,
think so.
yeah, it's going to be a really nasty game. You know, there's going to be a lot of ill intention in that game. You know,
I'm definitely.
every time I watch Brady Kachuk out there, especially that one shift when he knocked down two or three guys in the same shift, kind of reminded me of the Hanson brothers. Remember that one shift they had? I mean, they were he he was completely out of control, killing everybody that he saw, which was great. It's too bad that his he lost his edge on that one play and he got hurt on that play. I don't know how serious it is. I haven't heard anything about him. I keep hearing that Matthew's going to be okay and he'll be ready to go, but they really need Brady too. They're going to need both of them. If they both play, the USA will win. Okay, if either one of them are out, they will lose.
That's a fair assessment. Greg going disagreeing to the poll. USA will beat Iceland to win the Junior Goodwill Games. Let's go. Let's go. And Heather's also disagreeing. She's changing her mind and saying that USA will take it all. Hey, I mean, can they still match their defensive, minus, Charlie McAvoy? That's going to be an interesting question to answer, because Canada brings it, and hey, they've looked great on the power play as anticipated all tournament long.
Oh yeah, but the United States has been very good at killing penalties.
Yep,
they've been really effective at doing that. So I'm not as afraid as I would have been before with Canada's power play. However, don't go to the penalty box more than 2 or 3 times, because if you start a parade to the penalty box, they're gonna lose.
Priz chiming in going, not having right. The Priz chiming in going, not having Miro hurts more than not having Risto, but it's brutal not having either.
Same. Yeah, no, same. I agree with that. But like I said, they were hurting. They were limping going into this thing, unfortunately.
Give them credit for winning that game against Sweden, though. They played a hell of a game in that game.
Oh, that was a good game.
Yes, it was. I was surprised how hostile that game was.
I mean, I'm not. For Canada or Finland and Sweden, it's just like USA versus Canada. It's just 2 powerhouses over in Europe that just don't like each other.
Yeah, really don't. They really don't like each other.
It's something I quite didn't expect. I was very taken aback by the 3 fights to begin. I mean, despite, booing national anthems and all that extracurricular stuff that we're not going to get into going on, right? That on ice, I mean, the players aren't going to buy into that. They're there, representing their country and acknowledging that many of them are in the heat of a playoff chase, right? They secure a playoff spot. So, but I mean, a lot of it's sparked by the Kachuk brothers, certainly. But I mean, talking about one plays over the north of the border as well. So it was just it's good to see, though, right? I mean, that's what makes it exciting. I mean, in a way that to have those fierce rivalries coming to fruition, they're the Bash brothers, yeah.
Yeah. And what's fun about that though, too, Rob, is you don't see that a lot in international play. And I know this is technically international play, but just to be able to see that and this is just a whole different. It's just like a whole different entity when it comes to USA versus Canada, Finland versus Sweden. They don't have to play by international rules. Like essentially, the championship game is going to be played by NHL standard. So,
right.
Like,
do you think Sam Bennett
different.
would have been on Canada if they weren't allowed to mix it up?
Probably not.
I mean, that guy's a talentless goon. What the hell is he doing in an international set except get the crap beaten out of him by Brady Kachuk? I mean, he doesn't belong on the ice with all those guys.
Tell him how you really
I can't
feel.
believe Sheffield isn't on Canada. I'm sorry, guys. How do they not? Guy's got what, 26 goals? And Sam Bennett is a better player than him, right? Okay.
Well, sometimes you got to make, but you have to have that balance, right? Guys that can play those bottom 6 minutes and not, hey, that's been talk a lot during the tournament. These guys that are used to seeing a lot more minutes, seeing less minutes when they're playing on the third and fourth lines, respectively.
Yeah, but then they'll have more energy to play in the third period.
Well, yeah, I mean that could translate to that, but it's all about think about getting in your rhythm of gameplay. Whether that be in hockey or any sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who would you rather have on the ice, Bennett or Sheffield? Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page there.
No doubt. But it's it goes back to the Herb Brooks theory, right? That you don't get the best player, you make the best team. You know what I mean? In terms of how you're going to match. We talked about before this tournament began last week. USA's grit. How are you going to match that grit? Well, Sam Bennett's a guy that can match that grit.
Exactly, and it's all about balance. And this is
shouldn't Reinhart be part of that? Reinhart can mix it up with anybody too.
Yeah.
And Reinhart actually has talent.
I mean, it's weird the way these rosters were made. Like, if you think about all the players that didn't make it. I mean, of all players that didn't make it, Connor Bedard. I'm curious. I would love to pick the brains of the GMs of all these nations, and I would love to know what went in. What was the thought process in making these rosters? That's what I want to know, because there's a lot of players that again got skipped over. Why did nobody from Washington make it? Why did nobody from Washington got picked?
Tom Wilson's Canadian, correct?
I don't think so. I think he's American.
He's American? I mean,
but even still, like TJ Oshie got passed over.
Well, he's always getting hurt.
No, he's Canadian.
He's Canadian?
Yep.
I wasn't 100% sure.
I wasn't 100% sure.
It was a 50-50 chance.
I looked it up.
If I was Canada and I wanted a goon on the team, Tom Wilson would have been my choice. The guy gets 25 goals a season and beats everybody up too. Mm-hmm. Just a thought. I hate Tom Wilson, by the way.
Well, Washington GM could have been like, look, we find ourselves in uncharted waters where we thought we would be at this point, and we have an aging team, and we don't want to get our guys hurt unnecessarily. Thanks, but no thanks. Connor Bedard, right, hasn't played a lot of hockey still yet. He's a second-year player, but he's still a young player. Chicago Blackhawks GM, our boy could use a breather. I'm sure there's a lot of politicking involved.
Oh, I'm sure too, because even the scene I think we might have been talking about it. Yeah, we were talking about it because we were talking about Michkov. A young player like that it's an advantage. Get some rest, refocus, recharge the battery. I mean, I know Bedard doesn't really have to worry about it as much as Michkov does, but the Flyers want to make a push in the second half here in the final. What is it? 24 games, 23 games. You got to be able to, come out like a cannon. And I do believe that he's definitely going to come out of the cannon hot. And I'm ready to see Michkov after getting nice, relaxing 2 weeks in Dubai.
Should help.
Right. After when they pick up against Edmonton Oilers on Saturday, they'll be playing their 58th game of the season. So 25 to go. Am I doing quick math? Okay.
Edmonton would be 20. Counting Edmonton will be 25.
Yeah.
Good luck, by the way, with that one.
Rough way to come back from that stretch, but we're going to get into our second half outlooks as we move into the latter part of the show, boys. In terms of how these teams are going to match up, I mean, we obviously saw in the first matchup between these two nations. Do you see anything specific from that earlier matchup that we can expect to see again, or how do you think each team responds?
I think Canada is going to respond with speed, because the one thing that, like I said, in the game on Saturday, the one thing I liked about what Team USA did is they wore down Canada with their physicality. I think Canada is going to do a lot of adjustments on being able to utilize the speed to get guys open and definitely try and work the puck a little more outside than trying to force the puck through the slot like they did before. And that's where, again, Canada found themselves into trouble, just getting absolutely manhandled by guys like, the Kachuk brothers. Who laid out Crosby? Charlie McAvoy just absolutely destroyed Sidney Crosby behind the net in one of those plays. So that's one of the things that they're going to have to do is, either one way, avoid getting hit and just utilizing the speed.
Sanderson can get the job done. I'm not worried about him.
Oh no,
Jacob Slavin is a great defensive defenseman. I mean, they hit. I'm sure the physicality will be there. The only problem is, McAvoy also adds a little offense on the back line, which, now is going to be missing. They still have Fox, but they don't have a lot of offense in the back line the way Canada does.
That's a good point.
But you know what? You look at the United States when they played the first two games, how well they played defensively. Did you happen to notice whose system that was?
Representative John Tortorella, I believe.
There you go. Okay, now that was Tortorella's system with good players. So for all you guys that out there who think Tortorella can't coach, take a good look at how the United States was hitting everything that moved, cut off the ice, gave everybody no room to play. Okay, they were in their faces all night long, blocking shots and not allowing Canada to get anywhere near the net. That's Tortorella hockey. Okay, in this case, with all the talent that the United States has, the sum is greater than the parts. I think Binnington stinks. I think if the Americans can get some decent opportunities and enough looks, they'll put some pucks past him. I think Canada is going to have a much more difficult time putting pucks past Bennington. Past Hellebuck. And that's going to be the United States advantage. I am concerned about the fact that we don't have McAvoy. McAvoy is really a tough loss.
That is a tough loss. Very tough loss. And, best wishes to him in his recovery and his
upper body. I hope Boston gets him back soon. I as much as I can't stand Boston, I don't like to see any team lose because they're losing their best players. I'd rather just see them lose and then they have no excuses.
Certainly. Priz was talking about McDavid. He's going to get like 10 shots on goal and finally win something. That very well can be. I'm sure the heavy boys are, the big boys are going to get heavy ice time, I should say.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, only 10? That's it? I think he's between him and Crosby, they're going to try and take over the game, which I think they absolutely should, because we saw the chemistry that Crosby has with McKinnon, and McDavid just has to figure out ways to just,
get open,
do his thing. Not even necessarily get open. You're right, but that's not. He just has to take over, and that's where he is at his best, especially when he's in an Oilers uniform. That's his team, but essentially Canada is his team. He may not wear the C, but Canada is his team.
How do you propose that they get enough room to play that kind of freewheeling style? Because the United States is not going to let them do that.
A lot of it's going to have to come from keeping the puck on the outside and working on the transition. They got to try and figure out ways to create odd man rushes, 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s. It doesn't matter. Either way, they have to figure out ways to do that, cause some turnovers. They want to beat the USA. They have to beat them on the transition, because that's you get set up. They're going to allow guys to get in the passing lane.
Check going. That's what they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to get it going early and often.
No, I agree with that. It's just if Canada, from what we saw on Saturday, at least from what I saw, didn't get to do much damage in front, or when they got set up.
That's because they just got boxed out, right? They couldn't get to the front of the net.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. How is that going to happen? How is that going to happen in a second? You think they're going to just let them get to the front of the net again?
No,
I mean, they play
whatever.
that
I'm
umbrella.
saying they
They
can't
play
get
that
set up.
umbrella style. The United States plays that umbrella style defense where everybody converges to keep everybody out from in front of the net. If Hellebuck
You're
sees the shots, they're not going in.
you're missing what I'm saying. I'm saying they can't play in a setup. They have to win on the transition. They have to win on. They have to figure out ways to score goals on the transition, odd man rushes, because being set up in the offensive zone is not working.
Okay, got you.
I could expect to Benny's point, the USA forwards getting in Bennington's face and getting him off his game. That's been a good MO and on how to get to them. But they're gonna be having McCarr back concerns Benny, and it concerns me too. I quite agree with you on that. Emilio DeCiccio, I'm gonna try that, or I'm gonna give my best guess there. Thanks for joining us. It's a new name. Sup, y'all? Thanks for joining us. If you like what you're hearing, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. We do it all here at A2D Radio. Every sport, everywhere. We got you covered. Right below. Boom. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait for Thursday night. I get geeked up for these international tournaments, boys.
No, I do too.
Yeah,
I like
it's a
the
lot of fun.
IHF better.
Right. What I'm looking forward to the most, right? Having a fresh Austin Matthews back, healthy Austin Matthews back. He was really good at creating space in that first game, and that's what he does both for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Team USA. Right. Did a lot of work in the dirty areas, and I can expect to see results in this game. And I see Austin Matthews carrying Team USA to a victory. I mean, that's not. I think that would probably be plus money in Vegas, but
you know what? Then again, Mitch Marner did score the winning goal against Sweden, so I guess anything's possible, right?
Right, absolutely.
But yes, McDavid. By the way, I was called out just before about McDavid. He did score a goal, the first goal of the game against the United States. Yes, they let him get open, and you know what? It didn't happen the rest of the game. They made sure they were on him like flies on poop, So it didn't. I don't expect that to happen very often. They'll key on him. They were doing. I thought the United States did a great job keeping guys like him and McKinnon and Crosby pretty quiet that first game.
I will say this though, and Benny just brought it up, is we didn't see Cale Makar. He's going to be playing in this game on Thursday, so he's going to be another person that the Team USA is going to have to worry about, who's quick, really good with the puck, and knows what to do with it when he has it on a stick. So that could definitely be a factor in getting set up in the zone for Team Canada.
Yeah, he also knows how to headman the puck too. He's really good at that. So possibly he could swing a couple of guys for breakaways. The United States better watch that because Makar is one of the best passers in the league as well.
Yeah, I too have been impressed with Larkin Benny. I think he contributes Thursday night as well. He's saying, all right, boys, let's give score predictions, and then we'll move on to Flyers second half expectations. Brad, lead us off.
3-2 Canada in overtime.
3-2 Canada in overtime. Brian.
I'm going to say 5-4 USA in regulation.
It's a barn burner. 5-4 in regulation. I'm gonna flip flop on Brad's score. I'm gonna say USA 3-2.
USA.
Listen, I hope the USA wins.
Sure.
I don't want to see Canada win. I can't stand that. I want their fans to be completely disgusted and crying and making excuses all summer.
Prez, if this happens, you're getting deported. I'm just putting that out there, brother. I don't mean it, but I'm going to deport
Boston
you.
Fans boo the Canadian national anthem?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm not even going to second guess it because they've been booing our national anthem since what happened with who and what. Because we're not going to talk about it on here because we're talking about hockey.
We should talk about Flyers second half expectations. The Philadelphia Flyers get back to business on Saturday afternoon and the Edmonton Oilers, the aforementioned Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid come to Wells Fargo Center. A lot of questions heading in to this when they are rocking a current forward lineup that consists of Noah Cates with Forster and Brink. Lawton's, for now, trade deadline still looming, centering Kuzmenko and Konechny. Couturier with Abols and Mitchkov, and Dennis Gauthier with Delorier and Hathaway. York, Sanheim, Sealer, Drysdale, Andre, Eric Johnson. It's not as preem as the opening to the season roster, and we're still going to see this transform heading towards the March 7th trade deadline, boys. But when it comes to the fan base, what should we expect to see from the Philadelphia Flyers in the second half?
Hopefully a lot of what we were seeing before the tournament ended, or before the break here, is getting some, just letting the young guys continue to develop, getting some good play from guys like Forster, figuring out ways to get the power play going, killing off penalties like they have been. More importantly, getting really good, strong play in the net from guys like Sam Harrison. That'd be great. He came in, he went into the break, played really well.
He played really well for Sweden the other night.
He did. And then obviously you want to see some strong play from Fedotov. There's continued development and consistent play is one of my expectations.
Yeah, they just have to be consistent. That's the key. They look great some nights, and then they look great some nights, and then they look like a young team, that's disorganized on other nights. You just want to see. I'd like to just see them get more consistent, come out every day, play the same way every game, do the system right, start cutting off the ice. Because just watch how USA plays defense. Okay, that's how you want to see the Flyers play defense. Same coach, same system. Just start doing it. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I alluded to, I expect to see some more trading getting done. We could even see, despite Kuzmenko having a great introduction to the Philadelphia Flyers before the break, there's been a lot of talk with him getting flipped. I think you're going to see, if the Flyers are able to get, a deal done with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know there's been a lot of talk. We talked about Cohen last week. We talked about, Milton as well as a strong, big-bodied center that, maybe that could enter the fray here, right? No matter how he works, you want to see them continue fixing the mistakes that, plagued them in the first half. But you also want to start to see a little bit of I want to see the maturation of this Cates Forster Brink line, because this could turn into something really special. And I want to start building on that chemistry, if not for a playoff run this season, for future years. This team is still far off, right? There's a lot of pieces that need to be put in place, but you want to continue to see the culture get fostered.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely want to see that. That line for me has been one of the better lines pretty much since they were put together. You got to get a lot of blue collar players on that line, a guy who knows how to score the puck, again, who needs some development. But that could be a very good line that can figure out ways to shut teams down, figure out ways to put pressure on teams in the offensive zone. And on top of it, you got Noah Cates, who is a forechecking dog who just hunts down the puck and just doesn't give up until he gets it. And that's one of the things that makes him so valuable to this team, is his ability to forecheck and do all the hard work down in the dirty areas, especially in those corners. He's not afraid to get down there. As far as Kuzmenko goes, we'll see how things play out, but I'm really, really intrigued by his first game with the Flyers. I thought he played really, really well. Make me really excited to get Peltier out there.
See what you got with him too. That's going to be
Mhm.
something positive to look forward to.
And he's a Tortorella player. He's the kind of guy that Tortorella loves. 200 foot, plays physical, knows how to block shots, plays a very strong two-way game. Just needs to develop that offensive game at the NHL level. He has absolutely been. He's had moments where he's looked very, very good offensively. Not yet at the NHL level, playing in the Q, playing in the AHL. He's looked very strong offensively. So we know that the ability for him to score goals is there. He just has to figure out ways to do it in the NHL. I really do believe that if he can get the right line mate with him, and I think that the Flyers might have him, if he can get on the right line with the right line mate, that can really get him to explode offensively. And final thing I'm going to say, and actually, believe it or not, Swoop made me think of this off of this comment here. So, yep. Was it this one? Nope, it's up a little bit. It's this one here. So, Swoop, thank you. You actually made a very good comment that got me thinking. This team has to get so much better in the second period.
Yeah.
The consistency from going first to third is fine. You got to figure out a way to stop falling apart in the second period. They are the worst team goal differentially in the NHL in the second period. This is where they tend to sit back a little bit more. And I get it. You have the long change, so you're probably playing back a little bit. Got to figure out a way to get aggressive in the second period. That, to me, will be a key in this team moving forward because that's the hardest period to play because you have the long change. If you can figure out ways to score more, at least keep the opposing team off the board in the second period, even get one or two here and there, fine, great. That's an improvement, but they have to not be the worst team in the NHL in the second period anymore if they want to continue moving forward. Worst goal differential in the league. I think it's like minus 20 or something like that. I'll have to look that up.
Minus 30. Oh, minus 20
30.
just in the second
period.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. It's minus 30 overall. I mean, you're talking about a Flyers team that's second worst in the Eastern Conference. Only the Buffalo Sabres has fewer points and are 26 out of 32 in the NHL as the Western Conference continues producing some shit hockey. But I think ultimately what you're going to start to see is a more reflection on, moving towards the 2025 draft, right? We want to tighten up the game regardless of wins and losses, right? Mm-hmm. And you just want to start playing consistent hockey, 60 minutes, win, lose, or draw. But you want to build that chemistry between your line mates as you're moving forward and getting, a look at some younger talent as well. I mean, that's a great, thank you. I appreciate that. My dad actually made that lamp.
That's pretty awesome. Actually, I don't think I knew that.
Yes. It does light up, cool, but it doesn't really show up too well on the camera.
No, that looks bright though.
Let's flick. Yeah, it's not as that bright. You can see the bar logo when it's lit up, but I'll fix it. It caused me to fix G. Congratulations to him. He's continuing to set milestones.
Yeah, love it. Love to see it. I completely lost track of my train of thought. Eileen threw me off.
Yeah. Well, really, I really expect to step back. But what I'm excited about, and you touched upon it earlier, Brian, is a refreshed Mitchkov and how he can make a push for the Calder Trophy. I mean, that's going to be the type of things like player development, right? And Benny said, yes, Torts is a better coach for experienced players versus developing younger players. I don't necessarily absolutely disagree with that statement, but I do think he teaches young players a level of accountability that I think is really important at this stage. And, guys change too, right? Like, you know what I mean? As they get older too, they want to start. He obviously has been around the game a lot, has a lot of wisdom to impart, right? And for the most part, do you hear many rumblings of, the players, having negative things to say about Torts, right? Like like they stand behind their coach. So there's a reason for that. So at least as long as he's coming from, a stance of a strong context, right? That I feel will, teach them and the assistants, right? Can work on the skill level of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, I I'm beginning to believe that we are almost 60 games through the season and the Flyers have yet to extend him. This leads me to believe that, and this is just speculation. I'm putting that out there. I know apparently I say speculation a lot to some people. I forget who's saying it, but somebody I work with. So this is just speculation on my part. I believe that John Tortorella will not be behind the bench next year, but he will still be a part of the Flyers organization, impacting this rebuild. But I just think he's going to be up in the box with Danny and Jonesy, making the decisions on the roster and who to take, and they're going to allow another coach to come in and help take this team to the next step. I mean, I could be completely wrong there, and maybe they just don't. They're going to wait till the offseason to discuss an extension with Tortorella, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea because he can still have his impact. He can still, work on his player development and helping guys become better. But I also believe that if the anonymous player polls are true, there's a lot of players out there that don't like playing for Torts. There's even less of a smaller percentage that actually like playing for Torts. So I do think getting him off the bench and into a front office role, I think ideally could be a much better fit for everybody involved and for these players to be able to take the next step. It sounds weird, I'm sure, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think if you can bring in a coach to take this team to the next step, and maybe Torts isn't the guy, why not? But you keep Torts around because there are a lot of players on this roster that enjoy having him around.
Well, I could see a benefit to that too, where these players aren't having to relearn a whole new system, right? It's the same system. Maybe bring in a young coach, to come in and adapt and fit with the program, and that way, you're not resetting the rebuild because then it's not the Flyers we're talking about; it's the Sixers we're talking about. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, for sure. And I mean, like Benny just said, there's a lot of players. Anonymous players poll. He was one of the top 3 guys that players don't like playing for. So that being said, if you can get him off the bench and maybe into a consultant role where he can actually help build the roster and have his still keep his hands, what is it? What's the saying? Keep his hands in the clay, hands in the dirt, whatever. I think that could be great. I definitely think he can still keep his imprint on this team, just not behind the bench because, I mean, there's players who have flourished under him and there's players that are, they experience setbacks and they experience a lot of inconsistency with it. But I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. Again, it's speculation, but I think it's a fun conversation to have.
The drawback would be too many spoons, right? Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But if it's along the same page, then you have guys not being overextended, and I mean, Brad's been a fan of the New York Rangers where they've kind of fit that mold right in their upper front office, right? Having, Yeah,
he wore out. Listen, he wore out his welcome. That's just the way he is, and he does. He's one of those guys, and I did tell you guys this when you got him. He has an expiration date. As a coach, he's one of those guys. He has an expiration date because he does tend to get on a lot of people's nerves. I would say this about him developing young players. I mean, there was one Ranger in particular who was horrible when Tortorella was there, and that was Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider, when David Quinn took over, is when Chris Kreider really started playing better.
True.
And then when Gallant came, he became a 52-goal scorer, and then he, 39, 37. He had 3 spectacular years. That there's a lot to be said about that. One player though that I'm really disappointed in this year with the Flyers is Tippett. I don't think that he has played well this year. He's got to do better than what he's doing right now. I mean, he's a really seriously negative player. But I believe he only has 14 goals right now. I mean, he should be better than that. I mean, with his shot, okay, and his skating ability, he should be having a better season than what he's having. Is that Tort's fault or is that his fault?
A lot of it's inconsistency in his game, man, because there's times where he looks like he's the best player on the ice. It just, we don't see enough of it. And we see him over rushing plays, getting, not having that cool, calm, collective snipe and overshooting the net, hitting the safety net more often than he's hitting the net behind the goaltender. He's the type of guy that the game's going way too fast for him still. And at this point, that is a bit of a concern, and also his health is now a concern as well. But he's still, I still feel that, I mean, as I said in the chat, young players are soft, and maybe with a different voice in his ear, you could see a better performance out of Tippett, Brian.
Yeah, it reminds me of remember that guy Flockhart that they had 20, 30 years ago. They had this guy Flockhart who could fly up and down the ice. And he had all those tools too, but he never seemed to put it together.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. Very similar players. They used to call it flocky hockey.
Well, I think the difference is Tippett has put it together, and he's shown that he can be a 30, 35 goal scorer in this league.
That was what Flockhart did. Same kind of situation, but it seems like he really needs to pick up his game. Because right now, you guys really need to get like 3 or 4 core cornerstone players that you can count on going forward. And right now, the only one I see on this team that really is that out of the young guys, and I'm not talking about Konechny, who I think is a great player, by the way, is Mitchkov. I mean, everybody else in the team, I'm not sure that any of those guys are really core players yet.
No, but as far as Tippett goes, I think his biggest problem is he's squeezing his stick too much. And that will actually have an effect on how he shoots. I mean, he's been effective in the majority of the games that he's been in, and he's had some big time goals. But I definitely think it's definitely not Torts. It's just not.
He's got too much talent to be like, what is he, like a minus 20, and he's only got 14 goals this year. He should have more than that. He's got way too much talent. I'm not disagreeing with
you. I'm just giving you a reason why he's not.
Yeah, no.
He's trying too hard.
He's got way too much talent to not have like 20 between 20 and 25 goals right now.
But he's still also a young kid. He's only 25 years old. So I'm not exactly going to be like, oh, he has to be this way now.
Yeah, but at 25, he should be showing a little more. He should be showing a little more at 25. If he was 22 or 23, I could understand it. But
yeah, but his consistency isn't always from him, though, too. You have to remember that there's 4 other guys out on the ice with him.
This is true. I understand that.
Can't just look at plus and minus and assume that it's all on him. It's
no, but
it's not.
No, but the 14 goals is kind of on him somewhat.
No, for sure. But every player has these years where goal numbers are going to be down. We don't expect this dude to be up in McDavid-esque numbers. Like, it's as long as he's within 20 to 30, I'll be happy. But there's still about
25 games to go.
25 games to go.
Listen, if he ends up with 28 to 30 goals, then that's great.
No, I agree.
He needs, if he could do that, then you may have a playoff run. But they really need him. You can't depend on one line. You know that. You can't depend on one line. You gotta have some depth scoring, and he can give that to you.
Right. And it comes down to your line mates too when you're talking about plus minus, as well as you start getting more and more talent, as well, and defensive responsible talent at that. And I'm not even just saying in the draft, as this team starts coming along, and then maybe you bring in a free agent, right? That can, just increase the talent pool, because besides the Cates, Brink, Forrester line that I consider their top line, I see a lot of expendable pieces. I mean, I believe Konechny can still be a part of this future, but the clock is ticking on him as well in terms of his age. So,
yeah, I mean, as far as some of these guys go, I'm not concerned with the numbers right now. The numbers are, to me right now, are meaningless because this isn't a team. Yeah, as much as they're in the wild card race right now, This isn't a team built to be a Stanley Cup contender. So I'm not so much looking at the numbers as much as I am looking at how these guys are developing. Right now, I have no issue with Tippett because Tippett still makes an impact, even though his numbers aren't where they were. Forster starting to really make an impact. Cates making an impact. These guys are developing nicely. And to me, if this team needs to figure out ways to be creative with finding ways to win these games, and they're not fully doing that yet. And a lot of it is because some of these guys are still super young, and a lot of them have played a ton of hockey and at this point need a break. For Tippett, he just needs to get healthy. We need to figure out what's up with him. And I'm fine with the fact they didn't play him through the end of the start to the break. And obviously he wasn't playing through the break, but giving him that time to rest and get healthy again. Who knows? This dude could go on a tear from Saturday to the end of the season.
He's got that ability. That's all I'm saying. And we haven't really seen it. He's very inconsistent. I'd like to see a little bit more consistent play out of him.
I want to see more out of all 12, 18 players on the ice.
Well, very few teams have that situation under control. Even the best of the best sometimes don't have 18.
Right. Swoopy was commenting earlier saying, I don't understand not building teams with players that fit a coach's style. We see players trying to be made somebody that they're not under coaches. It happens often. We, need to build through the draft, but make trades that fit to a coach's style as well as free agency. If the Flyers do make a move and Tortorella moves up to the front office, I would like to see that done before the draft. So that way, right, so you can start drafting players that are consistent to, what that coach's style may be, what he may bring. Like I said, it'll be part of the same program that Danny B and Keith Jones are instituting. But what does that new coach bring? And you want it to be congruent, certainly, Swoopy. And then obviously through trades and free agency, therefore.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not gonna be able to find perfect matches that are gonna fit every coach too. So you have to be able to, if you're taking a top 3 guy, if you're in top 3 in the draft, right? You're taking a top 3 guy no matter what the system is. You're not if the Flyers have the number 1 overall pick, you really think they're passing up on Bedard? Do you really think they were going to pass up on Crosby if they had the number 1 pick on him or McDavid or any of those guys? Sometimes you just have to take the guy who's best there, regardless of whether or not he fits the system, because his ability is going to fit any system that any coach has. When you're a generational talent like that, it's not going to matter.
Sometimes the coach has to coach to somebody's strength too.
Yeah, that too.
It can't always be. Well, the coach. It has to be my way, or you don't play. You can't do that. Seth Jones.
Chris been talking to me about Seth Jones for weeks. Come on, he's trying to snake oil salesman.
Same. He's trying to go. He gave me a trade offer the other day. He's like, "Would you do this?" And it was like Seth Jones and somebody else. I think it was Kevin Korchinski. He's like, McTavish and he threw somebody else in there. I don't remember who it was, but I'm like, no, thank you.
$9 million for a guy who plays.
We just got rid of an aging defenseman. We don't need another. Which I hope Fowler is still playing well for St. Louis, because I'm a big Ken Fowler fan.
In Priz's defense, Seth, if Tortorella continues coaching this team, I think Seth Jones would play well there. I think there's some history to back that up, maybe. That was all pretty bullshit.
Yeah, it was all bullshit. We already know this.
In playing defense.
Oh man, I'm excited for the second half, though. I think we're going to see what this team is really made of. I think we're going to see some real intestinal fortitude from this team. As frustrated as I was with some of the play that I saw with this team going into the break, I really do think that we're going to see some more consistency from this team. I think we're going to see a little bit more fire because the team is now rested for 2 weeks, and I think we're going to see this team make a legit push. I think ultimately they're going to fall short, but I still think we're going to see this team make a legit push to try and get a wild card spot this year.
Right. I'd like to see Ryan Poehling back and healthy.
Yes.
That would be good for fortune for this team. In the end, I would like to increase those lottery odds. I've gotten to that point, Brian. I know I'm like it doesn't mean as much in this particular draft lottery for the NHL, but at this point, there's other things that they could be working on, right? Like, unlike last year where they were in playoff position, that was a learning experience. You'd like to see them take the next step and maybe get into a series and gain that experience. But with all these draft picks coming up, right, not only does it increase your stance, but it also creates what capital you have to trade with. Now that if your draft picks are now all of a sudden worth, in the top 10 of each round, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Top 15 of each round. So it does matter, but we'll see how it all unfolds here on Saturday. Edmonton Oilers in the Wells Fargo Center. Maybe I'll try to get down to the building, right? Reverse the fortunes. They do usually win when I'm in attendance.
Oh man, I'm working all day, so I don't have that luxury, unfortunately.
All right, let's give some love to Dr. Paul before we head out for this evening. He's our doc, Make 'em Yours, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC. They got 2 locations in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Visit them online, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Boys, it's been fun. Thursday night's going to be a blast. We'll be in touch in the chat. All you people out there, join us next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Hopefully we'll have Maddie back in the house, well-rested and healthy. But for Brian Daly and Brad Ryer, this is Rob Povia. Thanks for joining us as always, fam. Thanks for the comments. You're the lifeblood. We'll see you next week. We love you. Peace.
USA.